Joining us now in studio, Don Weeks, running for mayor of Virginia Beach. This is a non-partisan election, and this will be decided on November the 8th. Will Sessoms, the incumbent, running for re-election. Two other candidates in the race. They're not factors. I just tell it like it is. So it's a two-person race. Weeks, Sessoms. Don, welcome.
Thank you, Godzilla. Great to be here.
Now, going up against Will Sessoms, I mean, some people say, like you're going up against, the King Kong of Virginia Beach. He's raised, countless hundreds and millions of dollars. You're going to get outspent 25-1. I mean, how do you really be competitive in this race?
Well, we're working hard with grassroots. We are raising money, too. People recognize the corrosive influence of money in politics. You've alluded to it earlier in your show about Wall Street and et cetera. Our mayor has been great at funneling millions to developers, and they want to keep him in office and keep funneling those millions to him. So we're spreading that message. A few years ago, the League of Women Voters did a survey, and they said that 80% of the people are really turned off by the effect of large money contributions and campaigns. And so we're gonna tell that story, and we want to hold Mr. Sessoms accountable. He's been convicted of a conflict of interest. He was indicted on 4 or 5 charges. He did a plea deal. He didn't want to defend himself. And so I think people are turned off by that. We have greater needs in the city. We have needs in our schools. We have transportation needs. We don't need the light rail system. That's a bit of a boondoggle. I led the effort against that in 1999 when we defeated it in a referendum. So the people are paying attention. It's a change election, as you know. Throw the bums out. And so I hope I can help manifest that in terms of our current mayor.
Don Weeks, did you find it odd that Will Sessoms, when his CEO at Town Bank told him he had a choice, that he could either stay with his job at Town Bank, where I think he made around $300,000, somewhere in there, right? $275,000.
If I can chime in, he had a salary, I believe, of $425,000, and with stock options, in 2013 it was $760,000.
That's it. All right, I didn't have the figures there.
That's quite all right.
So he had a job paying him $750,000.
Correct.
And his CEO of Town Bank said, "Look, you either are going to keep working here, or you got to give up your mayor. Pick one." And so what's the mayor's salary in Virginia Beach?
The job of mayor pays a salary of $30,000.
Okay, $30,000. So he gives up a $750,000 job a year for $30,000. Who does that?
Well, not many people that I know of. But
why did he do that?
Well,
why do you think?
His benefactors want him to keep funneling money for all of those pet projects. When Mr. Sessoms was elected in 2008, he had a list of items he wanted to pursue. Reducing spending, helping schools, creating better paying jobs. Not much of that has happened, but not mentioned in there anywhere was an arena or light rail or money for our favorite developer in the beach for the luxury hotel, the Cavalier. He didn't mention any of those items in his announcement when he was elected. So I find that deceptive, if you will, and very disconcerting. We've got needs in our schools. Our 4 oldest high schools in Virginia Beach, Kempsville, Princess Anne, Bayside, First Colonial need modernizing. There's no money for that. But they've rushed around and found money for an arena, which they are meeting in secret to discuss. The ancient Greeks have a saying, one of my favorites, democracy dies behind closed doors. So we have lots of secret meetings in the beach. When I was on council years ago, we had closed sessions, and it was fairly repulsive to me. So anyway, it's time for change in the beach, and I'm asking the people to allow me to lead that change.
So, Don Weeks, let me ask you this. Let's get to the Cavalier Hotel, which I like examples that everybody can identify with. I mean, some of the examples of the conflict of interest that the feds thought that, and the Virginian pilot who did the story thought that Mayor Sessoms should have recused himself on. They're kind of hard to follow, and you got to get really into the weeds. But everybody knows the Cavalier. Everybody knows where it is, what happened to it. It is an iconic landmark in Virginia Beach. And a lot of criticism that was a squirrely deal, that average people wouldn't have access to doing that, and there was crony capitalism involved. What was your view on that?
No question, crony capitalism was large and in charge. We dug out from a FOIA request the wire that went out when the Cavalier was purchased by the most favored developer. We wired $11.7 million to the closing table. That was in 2013. Less than a year later, we had a budget deficit of $30 million. Our mayor and the council closed that deficit. One of the ways they closed that, they raised taxes on our most vulnerable seniors and the disabled. So that's something that is repulsive to me, that you would raise taxes while enriching a millionaire developer. Again, we can have a discussion about saving the Cavalier. Was it worthwhile? Should we have done it? Should the citizens participate in paying some of their taxes to do that? But finding that wire was very difficult. We had to FOIA it out of the city archives, if you will. They didn't want that revealed. Whenever I show that to people, especially in small business, I'm an entrepreneur. I've kept my business alive during the Great Recession and the financial meltdown. Our current mayor, his bank received $76 million during the financial meltdown from the TARP fund. So they got bailed out by the citizens. And he went on to, when he left Town Bank, he received $4.5 million golden parachute. And they also, this is the topper for me, in order for him to hire his white-collar crime attorneys to represent him, they gave him $120,000 for legal fees. So it's corruption as far as the eye can see in our fair city, and it saddens me, I must tell you.
Well, he did plead out, and he got a
Correct.
very nominal fine. And, it seemed from all of the work that the Virginian Private Investigative reporters did in exposing it, nothing really happened to him other than he lost his job. But as you said, he got a $4.5 million golden parachute, plus they paid his legal fees. So you kind of wonder about how that deal goes down. But look, money in politics, it's the iron triangle: money, politics, lobbyists, and average people are getting screwed every day. I've been saying it, since I've been on the air. Finally people are starting to wake up and listen. Let's get to light rail. I had Mayor Sessoms on my show Friday. He says he's in favor of expanding light rail, wants to get it to ORF, wants to get it to the ocean front, wants to get it through Chesapeake. And basically what he said is, look, you got to make a long-term investment into the development future of Virginia Beach. And without it, he says that, Virginia Beach is not going to be able to grow on a par with some of these other regions that are competing for businesses. Is that plausible or not?
I would disagree. I've studied light rail ad nauseum. It's a boondoggle. It's unfortunate. It really doesn't make sense for our fair city. We are classic low-density sprawl. People love living in suburbia. They are kind of pushing this urbanized idea on us. It's interesting to me also that our current mayor, he doesn't campaign on light rail or the arena. I've seen him at the Civic League this past weekend, on Saturday at Sandbridge. He never brought up the arena, never brought up the Cavalier, never brought up light rail. When he had a stand-in for him over at Thalia Civic League a couple weeks ago, he didn't bring any of those items up either. So it seems deceptive to me that these are big-ticket items. How are you going to pay for it? He's never talked about how you're going to pay for it. He's like a kid in a candy store, if you will. He wants this, he wants that, but he doesn't tell you how he's going to affect your wallet when it comes time to pay for it. So it seems quite deceptive.
Well, on my show, he likened the expansion of light rail to a road that he constructed out by Corporate Landing. And he said, when it first went up, people didn't really drive on it. But he says now it's one of the busiest roads out there. It just takes people time to get accustomed to it. He says there's all sorts of development that went around it where they increased the tax base. And he said that was his analogy. How do you respond to that?
Highways are a bargain. They make sense. Cars give us freedom and independence and flexibility. Light rail offers none of those things. The average speed of light rail is 16.3 miles an hour. So it's slow, it's antiquated technology, and it's ghastly expensive. We have higher needs in the city. I'll give you an example. There's an Indian River Road project to improve Indian River Road from Stumpy Lake over to Elbow all the way to the amphitheater. It's been on our books for 20 years. The highway engineer in Virginia Beach calls that a legacy project, meaning it's still sitting there. They haven't found the money for it. While they found money for an arena. Life is about wants and needs. We need great roads, efficient, so people can get home to their families and spend time with them. They can read a bedtime story. They can go volunteer at the library. They can coach a sports team like I've done for years in Kempsville. Light rail doesn't help you with any of those things. We've got to improve our roadways. We have a $500 million backlog of road projects in the beach. No funding mechanism sitting out there to find a way to improve them.
Mayor Sessoms says that he is in favor of the arena in Virginia Beach. He says that if you build it, they will come. How do you stand on it?
I have studied the arena. It's interesting. The experts I've talked to, both locally and nationally, have said it's a cheap arena, which is surprising to me. They're going to spend $1 billion in Sacramento on their arena. Seattle's spending $900 million on theirs. So this is a cheap arena by standards. You want to attract an NBA or an NHL team. It's not big enough for the ACC or the SEC. It has no university sponsor. It has no corporate sponsors that we're aware of yet. I don't know of anybody stepping up to the plate on that. It's way down at the end of the cul-de-sac, as they say. I think a better location for an arena and a regionalism initiative would be at Military Circle. Mm-hmm. Movement Mortgage is moving over there. Norfolk has attracted them with an economic development grant. If we could get a regional project going with Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, that would have a lot more oomph, if you will, and chance for success. And maybe you could build a bigger, better arena. Maybe you can attract the ACC and the SEC. You can do better with it, I think, if you have 4 cities buying in versus Virginia Beach solely on the arena track.
So, Don, I just got to ask you this question about the arena. I mean, I'd like to see an arena. Maybe it'll be fun. I'm in Chesapeake. I'm not paying for it, so that's fine. But I drive by the Hampton Arena going up 664 3 times a week, coming back at night, going to Richmond or wherever I go, Newport News. I never see anybody there. Why has that arena failed so miserably?
Well, I don't know. I'm not an expert on arenas. I don't know that it's failed. I went there recently to see the Cirque du Soleil. Had a fun time. It was a great event, presented well and so forth. So my wife and kids and I, we drove over. She purchased tickets. We drove over, had a great time, spent some money in Hampton at a pizza shop. And I don't know that it's failed, but I'm not an expert on that. I do know that there's competition. You have the Scope and you have Hampton. And so if we build one in Virginia Beach, they have drawn a line about 100-mile radius out where they're going to attract people to come see the venue and the acts. The experts told me that people will not traffic through that tunnel and the bridges and the tunnels on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night. We went on the weekend to ours, for example, but most people are not going to traffic through those bottlenecks to go drive all the way to the ocean front of Virginia Beach. This is what the experts tell me. So again, I've studied it. I'm not an expert in arenas, but I've done as much homework as I can, and I just think they're up against a monumental task.
Don Weeks, we have just about 2 minutes. Tell our listeners why voters on November 8th should vote for Don Weeks and not Will Sessoms for mayor.
Well, I grew up in Kempsville, a very small town at that time. Of course, the city of Virginia Beach has grown enormously since that time. I'm married to Carla. I have 4 children. My twin girls have just risen into the Kempsville Middle School, which is my old junior high. So I'm a native. I love this city. I've seen lots of good happen in the beach, and we have a great city, but we have some big initiatives and some big challenges in front of us. We've got to do better for our schools. As I mentioned earlier, we've got some aging high schools that need to be modernized. We've got to do better in creating good-paying jobs. Our economic development department has not done a good job in that. It is challenging. It's hard lifting to do that. I understand that. We've got to have better transportation solutions. We can't focus on light rail. The Norfolk Light Rail project was a boondoggle full of corruption. They had 70% of the contracts were not competitively bid. There was so much corruption there you can't imagine it. You can see what's happening in Norfolk now with other corrupt elected officials and business people and so forth. Big news, as you know. We've also just got to have a more transparent government. We can't have any more secrecy, secret meetings like I talked about. Democracy dies behind closed doors. People should vote for me because I'll be open. I'll be transparent. They'll know what I stand for. I'll share the information with them, and they'll know exactly where I stand. They may not agree with me at all times, but I have the best interests of this city at heart, and I know the game. I've seen it. I've served, and it's time for new leadership in the beach.
All right, Don, that's going to be the final word. We're with Don Weeks. He's running for mayor of Virginia Beach. That'll be settled November 8th. There are 4 candidates in that race. My opinion, 2-person race, Sessoms Weeks. People want more info, Don. Where do they go?
Bestforthebeach.com is my website, bestforthebeach.com. And we've got links on the Facebook page, Don Weeks for Mayor. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter and on my website, bestforthebeach.com.